I was thinking you've got to start somewhere. Why not start with one of my kids' favorites, and that's sausage gravy and biscuits. I'm doing the first step in every recipe. My mama taught me this a long time ago. The first step in every recipe is run some dishwasher. There's nothing more gratifying than cooking a beautiful dinner for your family and knowing that you don't have a sink full of dishes to clean up when it's over. So if you keep up while you're going, you'll enjoy your dinner without the dread of the cleanup afterwards. These are my favorite knives. You can never put your knives in the dishwasher. Always wash them by hand. And I'll tell you this too, if you'll invest in a couple of really nice knives and take really good care of them, they'll last you forever, okay? This is my beautiful cutting board that my Uncle Jolly made me for my 25th wedding anniversary. He's 93 years old now, and when he gave it to me, he made me promise I'd use it. And I do, Uncle Jolly, all the time. So, first thing we're going to do is we're going to get our sausage started. I'm preheating the oven at 500 degrees for the biscuits that'll come on later. You cook your biscuits fast and your sausage gravy slow, and then it all comes out about the same time. This is not necessarily the sausage I would use if I were making sausage and biscuits, but you need a little more fat content if you're doing sausage gravy. So if you'll look, it's not red, but it's not white. It's just right. We want fat to make the gravy, but we don't want so much fat that we make our gravy greasy. I'm going to turn it on about medium-high. This is another one of those really cool tools you need. Everybody said, and I even said, when they came out with these little star things, I don't need one of those. I just break my ground beef and sausage up with a wooden spoon. No, these are pretty awesome. Get it started. Once it starts frying, we'll continue to do this a little more so that we can break it up a little more fine, but we just got to let it get started. It'll take a few minutes. I cook my biscuits in my iron skillet. If you don't have an iron skillet, again, that's one of those things that you can invest in and it'll last a lifetime. This one actually belonged to my great-grandmother. Okay. One of the other things that I didn't tell you, I'm kind of transformed from when I originally introduced myself, is part of preparing yourself to cook is preparing your atmosphere. My cabinets were washed down, my countertops were disinfected, all of my dishes air dried. My hair's pulled up and I have on an apron. Also rolled myself off to make sure I didn't have any loose hairs anywhere. Can you imagine how embarrassing it would be to be having Thanksgiving dinner with your boyfriend's mom and dad and she found a hair in her dressing? Let's not let that happen, okay? I'm going to go ahead and put my biscuit, my flour in here. Now, we're not going to necessarily measure it, but if you were a measurer, I would say for us to do a pan of biscuits, probably going to need at least 4 cups of sifted flour, okay? I sifted this earlier. So now I'm just putting it in here. I'm going to hollow us out a little spot. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and get started on our biscuits. I will turn this off as soon as it's brown and just let it sit and rest while we get the biscuits in the oven. And then once we get the biscuits in the oven, we'll go back to our sausage gravy because we'll be able to finish it up by about the time the biscuits come out, okay? You've got to have self-rising flour. You've got to have some type of shortening. Some people use Crisco, some people use oil. I like to use butter. And you've got to have something moist. Some people use milk. I use buttermilk. My sister-in-law told me the neatest idea, and that is to use your grater. So I've started using a grater to do mine. But not only that, I put my butter in the freezer to get it good and firm. So we're going to get that out. See, it says butter. It doesn't say margarine. There's a difference between butter and margarine. If you don't know the difference, you can Google it, okay? But we're going to use butter. For a pan, it's going to take about a half a stick of butter, but then we'll melt the rest of it so we have it to base the tops, okay? And you need to work fast because the butter is soft and it will thaw really, really quickly, okay?
So biscuits and gravy, is that something that you had for breakfast growing up?
Yes, it is. Also had country ham, red eye gravy, bacon, just different things. We didn't have meat every time we had breakfast though. Sometimes we just had biscuits with some honey and butter and called it done. Okay, so not like any of that pretty butter to waste. I'm gonna stick it right there in the middle, okay? I use buttermilk, and not all buttermilk is created equal. I grew up in rural Georgia, and our neighbor, Miss Sears, who lived down Ridgeway Road, had homemade buttermilk. I guess all buttermilk's homemade, but she actually made it from her own cows. And it was on the counter in pails covered with cheesecloth. And you went over to her house with your own container, and she would mix it up and she would pour it into the container and let you take it home. Well, this buttermilk is the closest to hers that I've ever found. So check it out. Decide which one works best for you. This one actually has little flecks of butter floating in it. I'm going to shake it up. I have an extra one, but I always keep a little one. You never know when you might have a hungry crowd that needs some biscuits, okay? So we've got our butter in our little well. I use my hands. Some people use a spoon. And we're just going to start pouring it in. And then we're going to start working that butter. And then if you just kind of stir it around, it'll start picking up the flour off the side. See that? Starting to get a little thicker. A little thicker. We're not quite there yet. And again, this is just trial and error. And sometimes I err. But the biscuits are still good. You just have to keep going. They're not going to turn out perfect every time.
How do you know when you've got enough flour? Like, what's the consistency you're looking for?
You see that? Where it's just kind of squeezing off my hand and holding? We're almost there, okay? I want to be able to pick it up. See how I can almost pick that whole thing up?
Mm-hmm.
You want to be able to pick the whole thing up. Do it. Okay, see that? It's pretty good. Okay. Okay, I'm going to get it all mixed back up. I'm going to rinse my hand off. Look, this is how you do it. This is the way my mama did it. Run your finger. See, that's a half a biscuit right there that you would have wasted. All right, I'm going to go wash my hands. I'll be right back. Doing biscuits in the kitchen is not always a neat thing. So you'll have to probably sweep and mop when you get finished, okay? I use a cotton, just a dishcloth that I call my dough cloth. This is my favorite one to use because it's good size. I can double it up. And it doesn't have any lint or anything on it. It comes out pretty clean. Now, I've got to flour it before I put my dough on it. So what I normally do is just get a generous handful of flour and I dust it. You want to know why I like to use this one and what makes it help?
Why?
Because you need to know when you've got enough flour. You know how you know when you've got enough flour?
I can see that your picture's not real visible anymore.
Exactly. So, you know, you might have enough flour. Your pretty picture kind of disappears. Okay? Mama's was white. She didn't need any help. I need all the help I can get. Okay? So now, we've let our dough rest for just a second. I'm going to pick it up. Put it right where it goes. Okay? Some people would knead this with their hand and then roll it with a rolling pin. And I have some beautiful rolling pins. But this is the way my mama did it. She folded it with her dough cloth. The less you handle your dough, the softer your biscuits are going to be. Okay? So we're just going to continue to just knead it just a little. Work in a little bit of that flour. We don't want it to be doughy or anything. So it's got a little bit too much on it right there. Let's just kind of work that in a little. good. Okay. Now we're gonna pat that out.
If I didn't have a dough cloth at home, could I do that with my hands?
Sure. Of course you could. Take a little practice. All right, you see how thick I've got that?
Mm-hmm.
It's about how thick I want my biscuits to be. I'm gonna pull those little sides in so they're not too thin because I want them to cook evenly. I'm going to use my my biscuit cutter. I'm going to flour it and I'm going to pop that biscuit right there, just like that. I'm going to put it in my skillet. That's not quite right. I'll fix it. Okay, then we're going to take our leftover. I didn't make quite as much as I normally do. I guess I was just so excited about being on TV. But this will do. It's going to give us 6 good-sized biscuits. Perfect. Hey, I made some extra biscuits to fill my pan up since I was so nervous and didn't make quite enough dough. And I put the rest of the butter that I had frozen, that I had shredded to use as my fat content for my biscuits in this bowl and have heated it up. So we're going to come back over here. Excuse my mess. We'll get to that in a minute. Here's my pan of biscuits, okay? And we're going to baste the tops of them with a little bit of this butter, okay? Before we stick them in a preheated 500-degree oven. That one's kind of weird looking, but I had an extra bit of dough and I thought, why in the world would you let it go to waste? So I just stuck it in there.
Now, I see you've got them all touching. Does it matter if they touch or not?
It doesn't, but normally if you cook them in an iron skillet, they're going to touch if you make at least 8. And to me, it keeps the sides fluffy, you know. Okay. So we just basted the top, and we'll baste them again when we take them out, but we're going to stick these in a 500-degree oven. The faster you cook them, the fluffier they'll be. 500 degrees, I'm going to check them in about 12 minutes. Now we're going to turn back to our sausage. Turn the eye back on to medium. Maybe I'll do medium high. Okay. Gonna get this frying again. As soon as it does, we're gonna add some of our flour to it, okay? I'm just gonna use some of our leftover flour. See, it's still nice and fluffy. Now I'm just gonna do a handful. If you were measuring, we've got a pound of sausage, so you would probably want anywhere from 1/3 to 1/2 cup of flour. And we're just gonna dust it over the top. You can tell when you got enough because you're just going to just lightly cover it. You see how it starts frying? It's important that you incorporate all of that flour into your fat and give it time to cook. Otherwise, the gravy's going to taste doughy, like it's got raw flour, like it's got raw dough in it. So we've got to let that flour have time to cook.
Someone came in the room because he smelled food.
He was in his room playing Fortnite. I smell sausage gravy biscuits. Okay. You see how the flour's starting to brown just a little bit? We don't want it too brown. We just want to make sure that it's cooking. It's going to continue to cook through these next steps, but I like to make sure I've incorporated it. So we're going to put a little salt and pepper. I use kosher salt and I use coarse ground black pepper. And I keep it in a bowl next to my stove all the time, because you never know when you might need it. Okay? Stir that up. That looks pretty good. Now we're going to add whole milk. Okay? Not buttermilk. It's regular milk, but I use whole milk. I don't use 2% or skim milk. I mean, you're eating sausage gravy and biscuits, for heaven's sakes. Why would you? Right. Okay, we're going to fill that skillet up. This is about an 11-inch non-stick skillet. Thank you, son. Here we're going to stir that around. Incorporate all the flour off the bottom. And then we got it going pretty good. I'm going to reduce the heat back down to about medium. And I'm just going to let that simmer for a few minutes. As it starts to get hot all the way through and begins a slow boil, it's going to start thickening up because of the flour. Okay, so I'll stir it occasionally, but while this is cooking slow and those biscuits are cooking fast, that gives me time to clean up my kitchen. Hey, all right, so most of my mess cleaned up and washed my knives. There's so they can air dry. Got all my dishes cleaned up. My flour cloth, my dough cloth, I just rinsed out. It's still got a little flour in it, but this will be going in the laundry to wash, and then I'll have it for next time. But my mom always just kept hers, but you don't have to do that anymore because I wash dishes and clothes every day. So I'll put that in. Now let's check our gravy. That's looking pretty good. See how it's starting to thicken up just a little. I think it's going to be ready just about the time biscuits are. They like about 2 minutes. Alright guys, we're about to boil over. I better turn it off. Alright, you see, now it's starting to get thick because it was just about to boil. I'm going to let it cook for just a couple more minutes. I'm going to cut down on like 4. And as it cooks, it's going to get thicker and thicker and thicker. Let's go check those biscuits. What we got here? That looks pretty good, huh? Right here. I'm going to baste them with a little bit more of this butter. Some people like them a little browner. Some people like them a little lighter. I like them just like this. But more importantly, my children like them just like this. And that's the way I fix them. All right, son, get us some plates. It's time for the taste test. Y'all ready? Let's see what we got here. How's that? Now, Mr. Oliver wants his in a bowl. You want 2, son?
Yes, ma'am.
Spoon is gravy right over the top. That's the way he likes it. Alrighty, sweetheart. To all my babies out there, Mimi loves you. And I'll make it every time you come see me.